welcome to another episode of Data Dialogues. My name is Larissa Bedgood, and I am the head of marketing here at Porch Group Media. This is the second installment in our Dirty Data series. So joining me to continue the conversations is Kim Bant. So welcome, Kim.
Hey, Larissa.
So we are going to be talking about types of data hygiene. Our last episode, we just kind of gave an introduction to, what the heck is dirty data? How does dirty data get into your systems? The role of AI with data challenges. So now you have all this gunky, dirty data. What do you do? Well, we have the answer. We are going to chat on different types of data hygiene. And Kim, I think every time I talk to you, I learn something a little bit different on these data processes. I know the basics, but you are the expert. So I am going to let you start us off.
Sure. Well, like we discussed in the last episode, there are ways to try to keep your data as clean as possible on the front end. Using different business rules and tools when you are capturing data. But sometimes, the data does still age out if it's sitting dormant or if a consumer is not engaged. So there are a host of processes that can be applied to a database to keep it better organized. If you just think about data processing in general, it's a science. So there are things that can impact match rates and corrections and other pieces of information with how the data was entered. Everything from as simple as a standardized address to USPS records. Most of you probably see a lot of websites now. When you go to put your shipping address in, it'll offer you a different version of your address. Maybe it's all capitalized. Maybe something is either abbreviated or not abbreviated. It removes some of the, the commas or the periods you might put in. That's address standardization. So it is bringing it in line with how the industry standard of having a database set up so that things can match properly. There are the common, well-known, eliminate duplicates, create connections between abbreviated names. So for instance, I think we have on here, a person's name is William and they use Bill. In my case, my name is Kimberly, but I use Kim and I spell it differently. So, how do you connect those pieces of information? So, there are some very good tools. And then there are basic tools, and then there are more sophisticated tools, kind of like we use here because of the volume of data we deal with, to look at all of that. So, and every process in business rules is custom to your business. So it's important that whoever you use, whether you're subscribing to a tool or purchasing one, or you're using a partner to do it, is to really understand how you collect data, how you use data, what rules around your data are important, and then to utilize the various processes that support those.
So question, and we'll kind of dive into, we have different processes that we've outlined that Kim and I have chatted about before on merge, purge, and different ways, different things that you can do. But when I've looked at the list, Kim, there's so many different things. I'm looking at some notes that I put together right now. There's NCOA, there's PCOA, there's CAS. It's so confusing. I have been in this business for some time, and that to me is still very okay, which is which. Before we kind of talk a little bit more in depth about some of the differences and what these are, and we can actually throw some of these up on the video portion of this podcast. But when a client comes to us and just kind of say, do you ask for a use case, what they're trying to do, and then provide recommendations, or do people usually know what they need to do? Because it just seems to me a little overwhelming on where to even start.
Um, we have both, a client who's a little more experienced will usually, um, some will come to the table and just say, I want this, this, and this, X, Y, and Z. Or usually, uh, if they are used to doing this and they have some processes in place, a lot of times they're experiencing some kind of issue
Mhm.
that's still, an elusive issue, and we'll work with them to figure out what's causing it, and find a way to correct it. But if someone's newer or resource strapped and they don't really know what the best solution is, um, again, it's scientific. So that's where we'll come in and really want to understand their business around their data, and then propose and recommend solutions that will help them achieve their objectives.
Right.
So, um, like I said, it's depending upon the size of your database, how often your consumers interact with you. You should have ultimately a plan and a schedule, where you are regularly cleansing and updating your data. It could be real time, it could be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. It really depends on your business use case, and that's where we come in to help you determine what is the best solution for your use case and budget.
Awesome. I like that. Okay, so let's kind of dive in, just, maybe highlight some of these different types of data hygiene. So if you're looking up types of data hygiene and you run across all these acronyms and different things to do, we'll kind of touch base on some of those. So the first thing that you and I had chatted about, when deciding what to talk about for this podcast was merge purge. What is that? I mean, I obviously, just from the name, have a basic idea, but I know there's more than just, merging all that data together and getting rid of the old stuff. So maybe a little
Sure.
bit more of a technical explanation for us.
Sure. Merge purge is a very common term, especially in direct mail. So when you are sourcing or utilizing multiple databases to run a campaign, um, the merge purge process allows you to basically net down to unique records so that you're not mailing the same person multiple times. There are some cases where a mail house will do this for you. This can be done with any contact point. It can be done with emails, phones, postal addresses. Again, it's important to know that it's not one size fits all. So
Mhm.
it's understanding what you were doing and how your data is looking. So even before you get to that point, it's important to look at your own database before you start bringing others in.
Ah, good point. That is the gem right there.
And also, I'll
um,
say this: there are so many different processes, and acronyms are flying. Just because they just become natural industry terms. What I recommend to everyone is, if you're unsure, this is where the AI and the chat GPTs come in. My favorite thing is, if I don't know something, I'll go to chat GPT and just say, explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader, and tell me when I should be using it. So it's a
right.
great, easy way to kind of figure out, especially if you have a company proposing stuff to you and you're not sure what it is. They should be explaining it to you. But if not, it's an easy way to learn real quick. So it's
Mhm.
like you said, in this industry, I learn something new every day. So,
Yeah.
we do learn a lot from our clients and prospects, and the way they look at things. So, from a simplified thing, they're pretty easy to understand once you read them.
Right.
Each element has a specific benefit. They don't all necessarily fit everybody's use case. So again, that's where you figure out what's most cost and beneficially investment wise.
So a couple of acronyms that I have pulled up here. I'm going to do a little quiz. What is NCOA?
So NCA is your national change of address. It's when people move and they
Hmm.
report their address. So here's what is interesting. So national change of address captures a move when consumers submit that they have moved. They submit to the postal
Mhm.
service that they have a new address. Um, Now, in today's world, when you are doing things like online billing or e-statements, sometimes those don't catch up as quickly because, you don't necessarily change your email address. You may not change a streaming service piece of information. So you do look for companies that have first party interactions or their own interactions with consumers that can capture that information. But national change of address is the industry standard based on when a consumer submits to the post office that they have moved.
So that kind of brings me into our own mover data sets. So correct me if I'm wrong, and I know portion of where we get our mover data from, but do we use NCOA change of address to identify movers?
We do. We do. It is
Yep.
one of many ways that we identify movers. Um, at Porch, we track through the entire mover journey from when you start researching to when you are ready to put your home on the market, as you go through the process and you are looking for various services. And then we do capture the post move.
So I know that one of the things that we can do in a data assessment or as you're evaluating different types of data anomalies is that we can pass the data and flag customers who are either post movers, possible movers. We have a whole system of, like, as you mentioned, through the move journey. So it's likely movers, verified movers. I believe they have a contract on their home. So it's, again, it's different stages within that move journey. And again, one of the most common types of, inaccurate data points is changing addresses. So to capture that information early on, to not only correct your database, but to do some pre-marketing, before the move or after is just, it's so valuable.
Sure, there's a whole world where it's valuable to know that your customer is considering moving. So think of the financial services space, mortgage companies or utility companies, anybody to where the move impacts your relationship with the consumer. So one of the things that we specialize in is we can take your customer database and give you those insights. So, wouldn't it be great to know, hey, my customer is considering a move. There are certain value propositions or services or products that we want to put in front of them at this time.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, we actually did a whole mover study a couple years with Harris Poll. So if any of you are interested, just ping us with the contact information we have on the podcast and we can send that over to you. So there's a whole nother area beyond the postal database cleanup, email, append, email validation, phones, any that you see as being some of the most common that clients are looking for?
Again, it depends upon what communication channels you use to communicate. Um, we can pretty much fill in the gaps across the board. So any contact point you might be looking for and you're missing a data enhancement project can fill in. One of the most popular programs is what we affectionately refer to as the Bootcamp, where we will take in your database, we will validate it. So all the previous hygiene processes we showed you, your database will go through all of those processes, and then we will come to you with a report, show you what it looks like, and then anything that's missing, we're able to share where we can fill in those gaps, and you can choose how you want to do that. Then we like to take that cleaned up, fully baked file, and then we can run profiles on them to kind of call out any key trending demographics or behaviors or characteristics of your customers. And then you can choose to have those insights added to your file to help inform your own marketing strategies.
I love that. And I love the name Data Bootcamp. So before we wrap up, I know that you have a special offer for our podcast listeners. Do you want to just kind of share what that is and how they can get that?
Sure. So, as a thank you for sticking with us and kind of listening to our little chat, anyone who reaches out to us and mentions the podcast, we will work with you to take a sample of your data and give you a free evaluation of what we think would help get your data into shape.
Love it. So get your data in shape. That is the theme. Thank you all for joining us and stay data driven, stay creative, and we will catch you next time. Thanks all.